Welcome to the Artist Spotlight for Run Radio. I'm Trina Wilcox. My guest today, Molly Healey. Welcome.
Hello.
Before we even get into anything, I've got one question. If you could clear up, is there a difference between a fiddle and a violin?
Very good question. Yes, technically there is the bridge is a little bit more curved on a violin.
Okay.
And it's flatter on a fiddle. And so but a lot of fiddle players will play with just regular violins. So it's definitely more how you play it. For instance, I'm a fiddle player, but I do both. I have a classical violin. I always have. So I've never used a fiddle.
So your music is a big part of your life, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, there is something that you're also passionate about happening this weekend right here in Springfield, Missouri, and it is the Earth Day Music Festival. So tell me a little bit about that and how folks can get involved and what's going to be happening throughout the entire day.
Yeah, we're so excited to be bringing this for the second time to Springfield, Missouri. It is a plastic-free music and sustainability festival. And we're going to have 9 bands performing throughout the day. It's in Jordan Valley Park in Springfield, Missouri, right here. The doors open at 11 and music will wrap up at about 8. It's plastic-free, meaning that we are going to be basically selling for a very small price metal cups that people can drink out of for the day. They can take those cups home with them. They last really forever. I mean, I've had some for years. We're encouraging all the guests to bring water bottles to fill up because we're not going to have plastic water bottles for sale. We're composting all of our food waste for the day, and compostable containers as well. So it's basically a leave no trace event. So we're really trying to have zero garbage, zero plastic, and the ticket price that you will pay at the door that you have already paid if you have a ticket is 100% going to go to our local environmental organizations. And this year we've got 3 of them that we've picked, the Ozark Society, Compost Collective, and Springfield Green County Parks.
Okay, so why is this so important for us to recognize?
Well, for me, of course, it's really about the fact that I'm blending music and environmentalism. That's been my passion since the beginning. I at one point I wanted to actually even quit music to do more environmental work. My wise daughter at the time said, that's probably not the best idea, Mom. You're not going to be happy, because music is such an incredibly huge part of my life. But, she said, you need to figure out a way to blend those 2 passions. And so that's why I did this. I think that you can use music to make the world a better place, and that you can show the world that we can gather without a huge mess. And we can continue to have these kinds of events without, making mountains of plastic and garbage that will end up in the oceans. We can find ways to sustainably do it by, encouraging people to bike to the festival, carpool, use very little emissions. And the donation part of it, that in my opinion, the only way that we're going to make environmentalism profitable over fossil fuel consumption is by taking the money out of the fossil fuel industry and putting it into sustainability. And that's really what it's been about for me the whole time is, the money. I mean, that's ultimately in a capitalistic society, that's what it's got to be about. You've got to try to figure out a way to make sustainability and environmentalism and green energy profitable so that it can replace the burning of fossil fuels. And so we are just showing in our little corner of the world that we can raise money for environmental organizations and try to give them some much needed cash to do what they need to do to keep our environment clean and sustainable.
When you were first putting this together, did you constantly come up against little hurdles that you didn't realize, oh, that's not going to work because I don't make a mess? Did you have to change gears a lot, or was it pretty quick and easy?
I mean, it just, as far as that part of it, it was pretty cut and dry. We decided right off the bat, no plastic, and that's really not been that hard at all. I mean, and that's what's kind of disappointing sometimes when you go to an event and there is a bunch of plastic. It's like, we know how to do this. This is not this,
Yeah.
this can be done. And as far as like, how to, our model of funding the festival through sponsorships and, so that we can donate all of the ticket sales, that wasn't super hard. The things that are hard is just the nuts and bolts, of course, of running a festival for someone like me who's never done it before, and my partner and my board. Awareness, it's sometimes hard to convince people that Earth Day is something that can be fun, and it's not political. It's just it's something that we can all be a part of and do a good thing for the planet, and that's really all I want to do. And so that can be kind of difficult though, because you've got people who immediately turn it into something political. And then the other main challenge, of course, is our weather. It's an outdoor festival. So when you plan for a festival all year long and you have a certain vision of it being outside, and then all of a sudden you're faced with the possibility that it might have to be moved indoors, you've got to switch gears at the last minute. And that's kind of, we're looking at that forecast right now, and it might not turn out in our favor this year, but we've got a backup plan so we can move inside the ice park if we need to.
Awesome. So it will go on. You just might
Absolutely.
not be outside. And I love that you're making something fun that is also important and bringing people together with music. What kind of lineups do you have that people are going to get to see?
Well, that's we're very excited this year to have the Ozark Mountain Daredevils headlining the festival. They are obviously a Springfield institution, Ozark's Missouri institution, and of course, internationally known. And it's been a pleasure for me to be playing with the Daredevils over the last few years. And we are just very excited that they decided to not only play the festival this year, but they're actually sponsoring. In other words, they are giving up the entire performance for free, taking $0 for it. So, which really helped our bottom line this year when putting on the festival. So we've got them super excited about it. They're one of our main presenting sponsors. And then we've got the Hillbenders, also out of Springfield, Missouri. We've got Opal Algafia out of Arkansas. We've got and then several other Springfield bands, Sister Lucille, 83 Sikadu, and then Mark Barger, Brandon Moore, and Annabelle Moore, and Alyssa Galvin. And then we've got a few other performers throughout the day. It's just going to be a great time.
Is there anything that you still need? Do you still need volunteers or any help in that capacity?
We may need a couple more volunteers. If you are interested in volunteering, if you could go to earthdayspringfieldmo.org, and that's our website. That's also where you can get tickets. And send us there's a contact us tab, and you can send us an email if you're interested in volunteering. We'd love to hear from you, even if for some reason we fill up this year. We had a few drop out this week, and so we might have a couple of slots open. So go ahead and send us an email and let us know you're interested, and we'll let you know if we can use you.
Sounds great. And again, if people are wanting to go ahead and get tickets, can they get tickets the day of?
They can.
Okay.
So it's just a slight bit more expensive the day of, but so we also recommend, just in case we have to move the fest inside, we're still looking at that forecast, but we're going to be diminished in capacity if we have to move inside the ice rink, and we'll have to cap if the tickets at a smaller number than we would have if we have the whole entire park to be in. So I really recommend getting those tickets ahead of time. It's very easy. You don't have to print anything off. We're just going to be able to scan from your phones. And but yes, if you decide that you want to wait until the day of, or if you forgot and you just want to do it the day of, our ticket sales do end on Friday, at the end of the day on Friday. So on Saturday, if you want to just walk up, it's just $40 at the gate, and you can pay by either cash or card.
All right. And that website again?
earthdayspringfieldmo.org.
Awesome. And so, like you were saying, you've played with the Daredevils for a while now, and music has been in your blood. It's been your passion since you were young. When did you first realize that it was your heartbeat?
Well, I think probably and a lot of people, musicians who come from musical families will kind of say the same thing. We don't really know.
Okay.
My dad was a singer, and he played brass instruments. He was a choir conductor. He was the conductor of the Jeff City Symphony for a little while, where I grew up. So it was just all around the house. My brother played piano. He's now a piano professor. And my mom sang in the choir, and it was just all over the place in my house. So, I mean, it was just kind of like, well, I'm not really sure, I'm not really sure when I started
Yeah.
talking, but it was just a language that we had.
Right.
But yeah, I guess as far as this kind of music, I'm classically trained, but I went to college in my 20s, and I thought that maybe I wanted to do musicals and Broadway and things like that. And so I actually was a theater major for a little while, and it just didn't work out. And then there was a friend of mine who, Kristen, and she said, I don't think I was even 21 yet, maybe just turned 21. And I was starting to kind of get involved in the local music scene. And I had no idea that I would be doing what I'm doing now at the time. I was still kind of trying to find my way. And she said, well, there's a local band, and they might need a fiddle player. I know you played violin at one point, and I'd only played in high school for just a few years. I was terrible. She's like, just bring your instrument. Let's try it. And I was so nervous, and I almost didn't do it. She convinced me to do it. And they had invited me. That's what it was. And then I wasn't going to do it, and she convinced me to do it. I went over there and picked up my fiddle for the first time in like 2 years, and it was rusty as all get out, but I realized how much fun it was. And so that was the beginning of my fiddle playing life. And that's a straight through line to the present.
Why strings in the first place?
Um, I'm not really sure. I think I just remember because when I first started violin, I was in 7th grade. So I mean, that's just like eons ago, that I don't really remember what my reasoning was. I think I just was thinking one day that violin would be cool, which I think
Yeah.
that's kind of the way a lot of people choose their first instrument. They're not really sure. They don't have a burning passion. Maybe their parents started them on it. I don't know. But like, I just thought that it sounded neat, but I wasn't really super committed to it really until my 20s. And when I picked it up again that second time, that's when I really started practicing and getting into it.
Is it your favorite instrument?
Either that or the cello. I go back and forth between the two of them there, but I love them both probably equally and for different reasons.
Which one are you best at?
Well, violin was definitely my first, so I would have to say absolutely that. It's definitely the one I'm most comfortable on. I have a solo project though, and I play guitar, and I have songs that I've written on guitar, and I like guitar just fine. But when you're playing solo, I do a lot of looping, but sometimes I try to play along while I'm singing, and that's so hard when you have a violin up, in
Yeah.
your face. So I found that if I'm going to be playing and singing at the same time, I really feel a lot more comfortable on the cello to do that.
Talk to me a little bit about songwriting when you started putting the passion from playing onto paper.
Yeah, songwriting came for me very late. I attempted it in my 20s and maybe eked out one or two songs. I didn't really like songwriting. At that point, I was just playing fiddle for other bands, so I didn't really need to anyway. And so but sometime in my 30s, well, no, this can really be traced back to as recent as 2015. I was looking at a video on YouTube, and I saw a slam poet, and in the background he was playing along with a violinist, and she just had this big pedal board of effects. She could turn it into bass, she could put a bunch of delay on it, she all sorts of things, and she was looping, and it was just beautiful. And in my mind I was like, I can do that. That sounds fun. And so I ordered, it's called a looping pedal, and what you do is you can record yourself live and then play over it ad infinitum. And I ordered one and I was just hooked, and I wrote my first, 2 or 3 compositions within a month. And it kind of started out just instrumentally, but then I started adding words to some of the songs. And now I've written songs for, my solo project, but also a lot of my duo projects. I've got another duo called the Lace Wings. I play with Dallas Jones, and I've written songs for all of those projects, and they're all completely different. But songwriting is now something that, like, I can't turn off. It's so weird. It took
Yeah,
me decades to turn it on, but now here it is, I guess.
that's really neat. Do you sing then as well?
Yep. Singing was my first thing. I've been singing
Okay.
since I was a kid. It was all the instruments that came later.
Okay. And I guess a fan of yours actually described your style as orchestra, bringing orchestra to the live rock show.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, I was talking with somebody. The first time I asked somebody, because I couldn't decide what to describe my solo project music, it was because it's really doesn't have a whole lot of I can't find any artists that sound like me necessarily. And so I asked someone once, and I said, how would you describe my music? And they said folk inspired orchestral looping. And I thought that's the kind
Yeah.
of bringing the orchestra, we could, because I create string arrangements and I record them and I perform them live. And so it's putting all of those beautiful lush strings to, rock songs and things like that. And so you can, whereas with a lot of bands, all you have to listen to the album to hear those kinds of arrangements. You can hear them at our live show.
Do you like performing with a group or solo better?
That, I mean, I think probably playing with other human beings on a stage will always, take the cake. It's definitely something that when you have that, that communication and that rapport on stage, and eye contact, and just that lovely, age old joy of creating music with other people will always be, the top experience for me. Solo is nice to be able to do, number one, with a loop station. Now I've got a computer program that I do all that stuff through, but so I can create my own band, sort of,
Yeah.
and so it's a one-woman show. What's nice about solo music is, it's you miss playing with other people, but it's really nice to be able to have the ability to show up to some locations that, maybe the band wouldn't necessarily be able to go to. And so you have the flexibility of being able to do the smaller stuff. And the traveling, I don't have to worry about schedules or things like that.
Yeah.
And I do like playing solo as well, because I have different versions of the songs that I do when I do them solo. So it's just a different thing. I definitely enjoy my band more, but I really do love playing solo as well.
Do you have a physical routine that you do to keep in shape with your music, like yoga or running, walking, something like that?
Well, the practicing is definitely a huge part of my day. I mean, I play 4 instruments now, and I try to practice all of them. And I don't get around to them all every day, especially not right now when I'm preparing for a major music festival. But practicing is a huge part of my day. And yeah, I exercise 5 to 6 days a week.
You feel like that is important for the connection with music?
I think it's more just, I think it's important for everybody to exercise,
Yeah.
period. But yeah, I mean, when you're hauling heavy equipment,
Yeah, well, yeah, right, that
it's good to
alone.
be in shape.
So will you be able to perform with the Daredevils Saturday, or are you going to be too busy doing director stuff for the festival?
No, actually, I play with the Dares now. I'm officially a member of the band. So anytime they play, I am playing with them. So I will
Awesome.
be up there, and by that point, hopefully, most of the festival will have gone smoothly. I can just go up
Yes.
there and relax.
Now, what about your solo project? How deep are you in? When can we expect to see that?
Um, well, I just put out my 4th album last November, and it went really well. And so we've been performing shows kind of supporting that with the band and solo. I perform my solo project at least, 5 or 6 times a month probably. And just mostly around the Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas area. Sometimes I'll stretch out further. But I've got, a major music festival, a couple of them this summer that I'm going to be doing, and solo, and we've got some band shows that we're super excited about. And so yeah, it's solo, it's all kind of part of the whole entire whole is the Dares and the solo project. So they're all kind of intermingled, and I play them both regularly.
Very exciting. What advice would you give to independent artists that are feeling overlooked by all of the big labels and mainstream things that go on in the music world?
Well, for the most part, I, as a solo artist, am still being overlooked by all the mainstream. It's tough out there. I mean, there's I won't lie, it's really hard to be heard. One of the great things about the music business these days is that just about anybody can do it and be heard somehow, because you no longer have to get signed by some sort of record label. And you can, if you're lucky and if you're, really talented and you have something that the world wants to hear at that moment in time, it can be very easy to be heard right away, to go viral, or, whatever it is that you ends up happening. I would love to say that it's not gate kept anymore. It still is, but it's a little easier to, catapult yourself up to a very visible stage, if you're lucky, I guess, is the way I would say it. But it's also, because of that fact, there's so many people out there making music right now, and so it's just become a lot more, the playing field has become denser. There's just a lot of music out there, a lot of distractions, I guess. So if you put something out there, like if you put a video out there that goes viral, you might be hot one day, but then the next day people have forgotten about you and they're looking at the next viral video, and so it's at my age, I'm 45 years old, and at my age I'm less concerned about making it, I guess is the term you would use. And I don't even know what that is anymore. I mean, to me, I've already made it because I'm making a living playing music. And I think that if you're, if I would say if you're in your 20s and you're really wanting to go for it, then that's wonderful. It is hard, but it's also doable if you work really, really hard. For me, I do work very, very hard, but I'm also satisfied with where I'm at. And that is that I have a presence. It may not be I'm not famous, but I do have a presence out there, and it's enough to get me the shows that I need. I have wonderful, rich experiences every single week and month of my life. I get to play at all these wonderful places and meet lots of fantastic people, and like I said, make a living for myself and my daughter, playing music, and that's really all I can ask for. And so I think my biggest piece of advice would be to love what you're doing, love the music that you do. And one of my mantras that I work by is to start small, think big, and work hard. And that's probably would be my piece of advice to everybody.
I think that is very good. Tell people where they can go to learn more about you, your shows, your music, and don't forget to tell us about the festival one more time.
Sure. So for my music, you can go and download it and look at my show schedule at mollyhealey.com. And my last name is Healey. Sign up on my mailing list there. I can tell you when we're playing again, things like that. Download some music, order a t-shirt. And then you can also look at the festival this weekend. My baby, it's my heart and soul right now, this festival that I'm trying to do for the Earth Day Festival this Saturday. So I would love to see you there at the festival. So go to earthdayspringfieldmo.org and get your tickets to the festival. like I said, whatever the weather does, we've got you. We're going to have a great time. And so we'd love to see you Saturday.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Molly Healey. Good luck
Thank you for
and come
having
back
me.
anytime.
Okay, thank you.